The greatest limitation the German Navy, the Kriegsmarine, faced in operating the Biber midget submarine and the Neger and Marder human torpedoes was launching them into the sea. They were all heavy and cumbersome and required large teams of often dragooned local garrison troops to get the vessels out over sandy beaches or mudflats to water deep enough to float them. Such manhandling had caused accidents that resulted in the deaths of operators and the loss of valuable machines. The Germans had created trolleys to help launch the human torpedoes, but such activities were time-consuming and they ran risk of detection and attack by Allied aircraft, which by 1944 ruled the skies over Europe. What was needed was a craft capable of getting into and out of the water under its own power, and once in the ocean able to operate like a submarine. In order for the craft to be able to overcome any terrain, it would have to be tracked. So in essence, the Germans needed a U-Panzer, a U-boat that could be driven like a tank, and incredibly, this is exactly what the Germans set about creating. But before we continue with the story, a brief word from our sponsor. Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a turn-based RPG done right. I know you've already heard about Raid everywhere, but there is a great reason for it. Raid is one of the top 3 ranked RPGs on the Google Play Store. The game is extremely popular with almost 15 million downloads in the last 6 months. So what is Raid? It's an epic dark fantasy done right. A hero collection turn-based game with over 400 champions for you to collect and personally customize. There are some extra cool features in the game, and the best part, it's free to play. Raid is adding more than 14 new champions every month, so there's always new strategies, new balance, and new warriors to play with. There are also progression awards. Get tons of free champions, equipment, and other cool stuff just for learning to play. Once you complete the missions, you will get one of the best legendaries champions in the game, the Arbiter. The game is growing super fast, and check out this cool roadmap that they've published. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on the special links, and you will get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. Good luck, and I'll see you there. Now we return to the story of the Seeteufel. The creator was an engineer named Alois Lödiger, and with several other colleagues from the Torpedo Testing Center at Kiel, Eckenförde, they took the concept of the Seehund 2-man submarine and married it with caterpillar tracks from a tank to create what was officially termed the Sonderfahrzeug, or special vessel, in early 1944. Designed for testing only, the vessel was a one-man submersible, almost 10 meters or 32 feet long and weighing 16 tons unarmed. It could be fitted with a pair of G7E electric torpedoes slung on either side, just like the Biber midget submarine. From this proof-of-concept vehicle, a prototype was constructed and completed in July 1944, a full-size example. By now, the vehicle had received the name Seeteufel, or Sea Devil. The Seeteufel was 14.2 meters, or 46.7 feet long, and crewed by 2 men. A commander, who also was in charge of navigation and weapons, and an engineer, who ran both of the engines. It had a beam of 2 meters or 6 foot 7 inches, and weighed 35 tons. In order to propel the Seeteufel at the surface or on land, it was fitted with an 80 horsepower Otto petrol engine in the bow, giving a top speed of 10 knots at sea and 10 kilometers or 12 miles per hour on land. When operating as a submarine, the petrol engine was switched off and a 25 horsepower AEG electric motor employed, which came from a Seehund midget submarine and was mounted in the stern, producing a cruising speed of 8 knots. The Seeteufel's diving depth was 21 meters or 69 feet. The petrol engine could be used when submerged, as the vessel was also fitted with a snorkel to vent fumes and provide oxygen for the engine. The mast also containing the periscope, radio antenna, and magnetic compass. The vessel had diving planes and rudder controlled by an aircraft-type control column. ballast tanks for trimming the vessel when it was armed or not, and weapons to enable it to fight on land as well as at sea. It was planned that the Seeteufel would also carry flamethrowers and machine guns for fighting on land. The main drawbacks to the design were the Seeteufel's performance on land rather than at sea. The petrol engine was severely underpowered, making it too slow, and the caterpillar tracks were too narrow to cope with some types of terrain. Wider tracks would have spread the 35-ton weight and decreased ground pressure, and the Germans planned to swap the power plant to a more powerful 250 by-horsepower diesel engine in the production models. The prototype, officially known as Elephant, was delivered in only 4 months by Lüdeger's team. Sea trials at Kiel showed promise. It was an agile submarine that handled well, but as well as being slow and underpowered, the Seeteufel could barely climb obstacles or gradients out of the water, which was a serious problem when the submarine came ashore on rugged coastlines or steep beaches. The narrow tracks also made the Seeteufel potentially prone to toppling over. At sea, however, it performed as expected, with a radius of action of 30 hours surfaced at top speed and 80 hours at cruising speed, giving it plenty of endurance for coastal missions. The Seeteufel had several other features. At snorkel depth, one of the crew could look out of a perspex dome, like that found on the Neger and Marder human torpedoes. Air filtration for the 2 crewmen was provided by Draeger rebreather sets, again as used by human torpedo operators. The one prototype was actually built at the Borgward factory in Bremen, the car company famous for its range of track demolition vehicles used by the German army in World War II. A further 3 pre-production Seeteufels were planned to incorporate the newer and more powerful engine and wider tracks, but by early 1945 the Kriegsmarine High Command had lost interest in the project, as its attention was on a range of new midget submarines, electro U-boats and human torpedoes. It had been intended that the Seeteufel would be employed by the Kriegsmarine's naval special forces, as the vehicle's extreme mobility made it ideal for commando-type raids on hostile shores, and it had the ability to also operate in rivers and lakes, where the enemy would never expect submarines to be present. German Naval Special Forces, or the K-Verband, or small battle units, had been formed in April 1944, and controlled not only the midget submarine flotillas and human torpedoes, but also units of explosive motorboats and combat frogmen. The explosive motorboats were called Linsen and were deployed by remote control to strike enemy ships. Neither the human torpedoes nor the Linse were suicide craft, though the nature of the weapons and Allied defences meant that the K-Verband units suffered high casualties until their final operation in April 1945, a week before the end of the war in Europe. Stand by for more videos detailing K-Verband operations later. Ultimately, the Seeteufel would not join the ranks of the K-Verband. The factors arrayed against its production were several. It would have been expensive and complex to build at a time when Germany was concentrating on producing simplified and cheap weapons that could be turned out by semi-skilled or even slave labor. The Seeteufel was also limited in its armaments, 2 torpedoes or 4 naval mines, and it was really too small and cramped to be able to carry more than 4 passengers on any kind of commando raid. But it was also big enough to attract the attention of Allied aircraft on land and at sea. Some writers have characterized the Seeteufel as a sitting duck, too slow and lightly armored to fight on land, and too big and slow at sea to evade Allied aircraft or patrol ships. But the Kriegsmarine High Command cancelled the project. The one and only prototype Seeteufel ended up in a facility near Lübeck, near the Danish border, and in order to prevent its capture by the Allies, the Kriegsmarine destroyed it with explosives in early May 1945. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also hit the bell icon to receive notifications. It also helps support my channel at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.